All right, folks, let's go to our second presentation tonight. Let's go to Gary in Oklahoma.
Good evening. Okay, when you get me cut over, I've only got one camera, so I'm set up on a camera tripod, and it's shooting down to the main subject material. Hey, you found me yet?
I'm looking.
Okay. Ah, there you got me. Okay.
I got you, Gary.
Yeah, to begin with, I want to go to a screenshot, and let's see, there's what I want to go to, share. Okay, this is our website. Everybody probably has been there many times, and that's usually how you even get to the meeting. But if you go to video or articles, how-to articles, and then scroll down, you've got a couple of things. One of them is, as we scroll down, Tom, and he was on earlier too, I hope he's still on. Thank you very, very much for this. He has a file there for 3D printing these knobs, and we'll see that a little bit later. But I have used that, and I really appreciate what he has done. But now for the actual subject of what we're going to be looking at is if you have to build a couple new handles, you've got a couple of tools and you don't have handles for them, well, you probably have to make them. And so Gerald did a really good job on this for using plumbing fittings. And in the actual one, he shows the actual fittings that are used if you're making a 5/8 inch or a 1/2 inch or a 3/8 inch handle for those shafts. And I have done the 5/8 inch shaft. I have not done the other two, and I'm not sure when I will either have the money or the need or whatever for a 3/8 inch. So I'm not sure when I'll ever be doing that. Okay, so you're going to just basically see my hands as we do most all of this. We're doing a 5/8 inch, and a 5/8 inch is 0.625 inches to be very accurate. You'll see why I'm bringing that up here in a few minutes. This is my first one that I did about 9 months ago, or when the article first came out. I call this my big boy. And it was used when I went out and got 5/8 inch rod at the big box stores. And this one here is a 3/8 inch upcut dual flute router bit. And that one and this one, which is just a round carbide bit, have filled up probably at least two 55-gallon trash cans with sawdust. And the whole idea is you've got one handle and you've got two different or more tools that you can use with that handle. Well, then I started doing a lot of bowl turning also. Well, that's why those were even done. And like a couple of others have mentioned tonight, at least one about bottom finishing of bowls. So I went to Thompson lathe tools, and I got in two of his tools. This one is the 5/8 inch bottom gouge. This one was the 5/8 inch bowl gouge. And so I was going to use those with this, but this is not something that you're going to use with a 24-inch handle. So I got to make some new handles. Well, that's when I started working on a couple new handles, and these I'm just finishing this week. So I went ahead and glued up a couple of 4/4 ash and then turned the handles. And in turning the handles, you're going to design it the shape whatever you want. So you probably have lots of other tools that already have handles. There's going to be some that you may like better than others. So that was what I had designed these for. This one's a 12-inch, this one's a 16-inch. And I really have used this one already now yesterday, and I do like the size of it. And when you're turning it, you're going to need to have a ferrule up here for strength. And that's also in the article that Gerald has. And all of that is kind of explained pretty well of why you need them. But I'll go through some of the problems that I have experienced now in the time since I made this one about 9 months ago, and the couplings that are now available. They're not exactly the same. And I've had some problems there. So these are some of the problems that I went through, and I'll kind of give some other little hints on what I had done. When I was turning these, I left the nubbin on the end so that I had the hole here for the center, for the live center. And when you're turning these for the ferrule, you're going to want that to be a drive fit. And the ferrules, this is a half of a 1-inch copper coupling. And I just cut it in half. I put a slight bevel on the inside so that when you've got this, this is a press fit down on. You want that tight. So you're going to use the same techniques that you're going to be using when we do a bowl with a lid. You know, you want them to fit just the way you want it. So using those same techniques, you want to get this where it's a press fit. And what I did was I actually cut them a little bit long, and you'll see why in a minute. But then once I had my diameter ready and I was ready to press this on, I then sanded on the belt sander down where what the wood is sticking out is slightly less than this ferrule. And then you can either put it on a very flat surface, very firm, or you can put it into a press and you press this on. So that gets your ferrule on there. Now, then you're going to need to drill some holes in there. This is a blank that I used just as a test pattern. And before you even get to this, though, you've got to get your couplings. And the couplings are where I started having problems. I went to get the 5/8 inch. It's a 5/8 inch by 1/2 inch coupling. And I went to Lowe's. They had one. Well, then I went ahead and picked up a 1.5 inch nipple that would screw into it. Okay. Then I needed more though than just one of these. So I went to another half mile down the road to Home Depot. In the store there, they did not even have a peg for the female. You need the female end, not the male, because you need to be able to screw your coupling into it. And so that was a real problem there. I have not found, and maybe elsewhere, Home Depot might actually even supply them. Otherwise, the only source I found was Lowe's. The part number for it, for anybody that is interested, the coupling is 877160. You're also going to need to get some compression sleeves. That's 877134. that might help you, and they'll probably change in a year from now again too. So who knows? But that might help somebody as they get started. What I had found when I started looking at this coupling, okay, this you do not need. We'll throw that away. Then I found that this is different than what it was a year ago or 9 months ago when I built the other one. The compression sleeve is now kind of sealed in and crimped. And so you got to get somewhere or another to get that old one out of there, because we don't need it. We've got to be able to do it otherwise. And I'm hoping that I can quickly get that sleeve out. Okay, so that is the compression sleeve that we don't need and don't want. And if you're going to be making one of these, you've got to get that out of there. Okay, now, okay, the next thing was that I found that on these couplings, there is a ridge in there that when you stick your pipe in, it hits bottoms out. You have to drill this out to 5/8. You got to take a 5/8 inch drill and drill this out so that it will slip on in. And the next thing that I did was, okay, let's try and slip one of these in. Well, it would not slip in. What in the world is going on? Well, that's when you get your calipers out, you start measuring things. These 5/8 inch rods are 15 thousandths under. So yes, it's going to fit in the hole real easily. Well, I measured these. Both of these, let's see, you can't see it right now. It's off slightly off camera. Both of these are 1.5 thousandths over. So that is a real problem. 5/8 inch drill, these are oversized. A reamer, which I inherited from my uncle, will not help me. I cannot get the hole in here oversized. So I had to go to an expansion bit reamer to be able to ream this out to 1.5 thousandths. Actually, I reamed it to 2 thousandths over the 5/8. And now these will slip in just fine. There is a slight sleeve, well, collar, anyway, that you can bump up against, and it's designed that way. So now it will slide in and bottom out properly. So I guess the thing that one of the things I'm trying to convey is, before you get too far along, your actual tools that you're going to be designing for, get those, get them measured, because you could start running into these surprises just like what I did. And then you got to get to workarounds. Okay, now to be able to get the coupling into the handle, this dimension here on the flat is 1 inch exactly. And now Gerald talked about actually taking this down, and you could put this in a lathe, your wood lathe even, chuck that up, and you could use a file to file that down, or I put it in a metal lathe that I have and brought it down. But also Gerald talks about using a 1.5 inch nipple. And come on, get onto there. Okay, so sliding that in and then epoxying that in. Everybody does things differently. None of them are wrong, none of them are right. It's just whatever you feel like best doing. Well, I thought that 1.5 inch and not epoxying that in wasn't long enough. So when I picked this up, I also looked in on all the pegs and all of that. Well, the next size up is 3 inch. They didn't have any. Oh, shoot. Well, the next size up is 4 inch. It was empty also. I had to go to 6 inch. 6 inch really actually, I think, turned out to be the best, even though it's kind of on the pricey side. So that's what I ended up that's in these handles. There is the nipple or the coupling, and then there's a 6 inch tube in there. Okay. Now I've got the center drilled out so things will slip in. With the 1.5 inch, 5/8 doesn't fit into a 1.5 inch. This one, it did, I think, on this other, the old ones. Things have been changing lately, gang. Don't trust anything. Okay, the 6 inch, how big is it? I haven't even touched it. It slides all the way on. This one is bigger than this by a long shot, inside diameter. Okay, well, anyway, I knocked down these corners some because I wanted them still to exist when we actually drive this into the wood inside of there. This is what I use to kind of test things. This diameter or thickness is 1 inch. So I used the 1 inch Forstner bit, and I used the point from the bit that I had on the headstock to help center me in the actual end of the handle. You want to drive that for the thickness. Where am I? Here I am. This part is what is going to be here, is what's going to be driven inside of the handle. So you want to drive that first lip that thickness. Then, because of the rest of the diameter, I had to go to a 7/8 inch Forstner bit. I would like to have gone 1/32 less, but I don't even know if they make them. And if they do, I'm sure it'd be outrageously expensive. So putting this in a Jacob Chucks on the headstock, and then using this hole in the live center, I was able to this in the headstock here. This will make it a little bit easier. Maybe you can see it also. And then the live center in this hole. And then with the help of my wife, I'm holding this. So, and turning this at about 200 RPMs. I was able to screw this in and out, making sure we don't overheat the bit, and to where I got the hole all the way to the full depth that I wanted. Yeah, we had to do a lot of cleaning out. Anyway, oh, and another point too that's kind of unrelated. Anybody that is using these extensions for Forstner bits, you've got to watch what you're doing, because you're not going to be able to use an extension if the Forstner bit is 3/4 of an inch or smaller. These require something greater than 3/4 of an inch. You got to be kind of careful as you look at descriptions of the products on Amazon or wherever you're doing any shopping. So if you're using an extension, you got to be doing it greater than 3/4 of an inch. And 13/16 was slightly too small, so I had to go to 7/8 to get that in. Now, once you got that done, then it was just sliding it in, which you could, and then I just used a press to actually press this the rest of the way in. And once that was done, then this nub is no longer needed. And I just used that on the sander, belt sander, sanded it down smooth to where I'll do that one here tomorrow morning and smooth it down. So I've tried to hopefully point out some of the things that are going on with some of the hardware, where when you're going to make some handles, go ahead and get all of the types of tools that you're going to be using, because it may impact the fittings and how you work on that. That is pretty much it. Oh, and I found that going with this size of a tool, I'm sticking it in here because I've already got that, and tightening it down, that is firm. That's a good firm handle, and it really does work. On the 3D printed knobs, these, what I found even is this coupling, the shoulder on the coupling right here, where this slides up and over, is a different dimension. And that's one of the things that is good with the file that Tom has on the website, where if you do your 3D printing, you can go in and set all of your values to change the sizes of these. And it is really handy to have that, because if you're going to try and tighten this down just by hand and get that tight to where your tool won't slide, you're really going to have to tighten it hard. You might even have to go to a wrench of some sort just to put a little bit more pressure on it. So where with this knurled knob that he has, you can really cinch that down real easily. Okay, that is all I have for there. If there are no questions, I'll move on to roasted wood. I did some work on that. So first off, are there any questions or comments on what I've kind of shown here?
I got
No, I
one.
don't think so. Well, Brenda, go ahead.
All right. That 6-inch pipe that you put on the inside, right?
Yes.
Is it necessary to have 6 inches, or would it be
No.
possible
No.
to cut that in half and made two tools with it?
Cut it in half, and you mean like a 6-inch and cut it in half and use half and half?
Yeah.
Yes, you could do that. Now, the reason why I went with the 6-inch was two reasons, really. One, they didn't have them. They were out of stock right now,
Right.
with the COVID and all of that. So I couldn't get a 3-inch or a 4-inch even, which would have worked. But when I went to the 6-inch, since I am not epoxying these in, which is the way that Gerald Jensen did his in the description, he epoxied these in so that it seals it really tight and firm, where I was using a press fit up here, and then down here I was very careful in getting the actual length. That was what this was on here for, to get the length to where this bottomed out in the hole. And in fact, if you can see it very carefully here, there is a little bit of gap right there to where this one didn't go in as far as I had hoped it to, because the 6-inch nipple bottomed out down here. And that made sure that I did not have any flexing, even though it'd be very, very small. There was no flexing in it.
Yeah, just give you more stability.
True, yes, without the epoxy. And, you know, as I say, it's just, I did it differently. There's nothing wrong with doing the epoxy either. It's just, I don't do much with the epoxy, so
Yeah,
it was simpler for me to do it this way.
all of
Gary,
the,
I have a question.
Yes,
If you take out the compression rings from the couplings, what actually holds the tool
Okay.
in?
okay, it's in the description of that article, but you have to slice. I don't know if you can see it to where there, it's slit.
Okay,
I just used a die grinder and you have to slice it. And
okay,
the reason why you have to slice it is that traditionally, if you're doing pipe or something like that, you know, your compression ring is inside,
right,
and this would go onto it. You would put your pipe, whatever it is that you're going to be mounting onto here, and then you tighten this down. And what that does is it crimps that compression ring around the pipe or the tube or whatever you've got, and it forms a airtight, watertight seal.
I realize that, but I didn't see you put the ring in the nut. That's what I was asking.
Well, yes, I'm trying to go pretty fast to where in reality, okay, there's going to be the compression ring with the slit goes into the nut. And I've got the nut on there. Now that,
That makes sense now.
yeah, and then, okay, come on. There it is. Okay. Now that one is tight in there really firm also. And I like this particular way I did this to where this is captured. And Tom has actually modified his to talk about doing this. He had it on the other side and then you would glue it on, and that's okay. But I just thought, well, I could turn it around, increase the size of the hole on this back side a little bit, and now it's a captured ring.
Hey, Gary,
Yes.
great demo, appreciate it. A point that some folks may think about making handles, I've made a couple for my homemade tools. You can use your lathes as a press or your drill press as a press to put these compression rings and ferrules and things on.
True.
So just in case somebody hadn't thought of that.
Yes, yes. On this one, when I did the ferrule, I actually just laid it on top of my table saw and hit it with a hammer. But when I then went to the other, and then when I pressed these into the wood, I actually have a press out in the garage, and it only goes to 8 ton.
Yeah. I use my cone center and my in my lathe and then use that to press in.
Yeah. It's just everybody's tools are going to be different, what they have and don't have. But I had some problems, I guess you could call it, from the old original, which seemed to work very, very well. I didn't have any problems in it. But then when I went to these, all of a sudden I started having problems because the fittings, the dimensions have changed. And the fact that the Thompson ones, even though they say they're 5/8, well, they're a 1.5 thousandths over. You know, you're talking half the thickness of a piece of paper, but still, that's enough to cause you a little bit of a trouble.
Yep. Very good, Gary. Thank you.